Hello, my lovely people, and welcome to Owen's Mind. I like hardly trip through the contents of my head and the world in general. It is Wednesday, the 20th of November. My name is Owen, and here is what is on my mind today. So once again, it's a really early Wednesday morning. I've got a late finish today, so I'm doing the video before I go to work. So I've got to be a little bit quiet. Again, hopefully the green screen is not going to artifact too much as it tends to do when I do these on a morning because I haven't got any natural light. I apologise for the massive shine on my head. But other than that, let's get into it. So as usual, I've picked out 5 stories making the headlines today I want to give my thoughts on. Links will be in the descriptions below so you can read each article in full and give those original publications some love. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So story number 1 today. This is in the Mail Online. So diabetic motorist 52 is hit by a £120 parking fine after safety pulling over to stop when his blood sugar levels got too dangerous for him to drive. So yeah, this is a gentleman from Leeds. So he was slapped with a £125 fine after he pulled over and his blood sugar levels dropped to dangerous levels. So father of one, Andy Lindsay, 52 from Leeds, West Yorkshire, close to where I am, suffered a hypoglycemic attack while driving. So he pulled over onto the Calder Park industrial estate next to the M1 in Wakefield to let the symptoms pass. A smart thing to do, you think. However, during his short stay in the industrial estate, he was stopped by a traffic warden and given a parking penalty. Symptoms of hypoglycemia include dizziness, nausea, confusion, and drowsiness. So obviously, you don't want to be driving when you're under the effect of this. The sales rep has appealed the fine 3 times, provided evidence of his condition, but the parking company that handed out the penalty have threatened to take him to court. So he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 11, and sufferers are advised by the DVLA that if it is dangerous to drive when blood sugar levels drop below 5 millimoles per litre. Bronwyn and his wife said the firm had shown no common sense in dealing with the issue. So again, this is not a council fine, this is a private company. So his wife said, "We understand the fine, but we don't understand that we've appealed it 3 times. There seems to be no common sense. Imagine if he'd carried on driving and killed someone. I'm sure the family of that person would have asked, why didn't you pull over? I don't think they would have understood if he said, well, I didn't want to get a fine." It's a fair point. The traffic warden took a photograph of his car. He was hit with a £100 fine back in March by XL Parking, which also operates under the name Vehicle Control Services Limited. The fine has since increased to 120 and will rise to 180 plus court costs if the couple lose an appeal in court. Bronwyn 47 hairdresser added, if it had been a council parking ticket, I'm sure they would have used common sense and let us off by now. It just feels like this company is a money-making scheme and nothing to do with parking or safety. He could have been dead at the wheel for all they cared. XL Parking was contacted for a comment but have not got back. So yeah, this is one of them things that does need to be mitigating circumstances. It's just madness, and you need to be able to say, look, from the company's perspective, yeah, they're probably going to get people making excuses. You know, it was photographed. You know, why did you pull over? And there's going to be, you know, they will have heard them all. But in this case, they can prove Andy's condition. You know what I mean? They can actually say medically, this is it. And he suffered an attack. There needs to be this kind of chance to put your appeal and for it to be considered and heard, because the danger here is that if he loses this case and other people who suffer similar things see this, they might not be as willing to pull over. You know, that's the danger. If they decide, well, you know, I don't want to get a fine, so I'm just going to keep driving. I can't park there. I'll go to the next junction maybe, or I'll find a supermarket where I can pull into their car park. And then, like he says, you know, like the DVLA say, if this gets bad enough and they pass out and they swerve into all the traffic and things like that. So I think the company needs to do the right thing. Hopefully, if this is going to court now, and it's now in the hands, it's not just this couple versus this XL Parking. There's now an adjudicator. Hopefully they'll have some common sense and say, look, you know what, he's acknowledged that he shouldn't have parked there, but he had an exceptional reason. So hopefully, you know, like I say, hopefully this will get resolved positively in the couple's favour, because if it doesn't, there is a danger that people will just say, well, I don't want a fine. Like they said like his wife said, you know, if you killed somebody, or if somebody else goes out and kills somebody, the excuse, I didn't want to get a fine, is not going to wash with that person or people's family. So yeah, we need to create an environment whereby, you know what, if it's whether you're allowed to park there or not, if you need to and you've got a valid reason, do so, you won't get fined. So there we go. Anyway, moving on to story number 2. So story number 2, this is terrifying. Mum finds abusive ex has been secretly living in her attic for 6 days. So this is in the Mirror today. Yeah, it sounds like a plot from a horror film, doesn't it? In fact, there's been movies like this, and people are like, it's far-fetched. But yeah, so an abusive ex-boyfriend has been jailed again after breaking a restraining order of secret staying in his former girlfriend's loft. Aaron Chidji, 25, was banned by 2 court orders from going near Amy Birch's house in Exeter, but he climbed through a balcony window and hid in the attic. Amy, 20, had already moved 10 times to hide from him after suffering his abuse and violence. She said, I was sickened to discover Aaron had been in my home for God knows how long. I had no idea. My fear is that he will stop at nothing to hurt me. I have moved 10 times in the last year to hide from him, but he always finds me. She first spotted him outside one of the windows, and on the second time she saw his legs dangling out the loft. She also realised she had an unwelcome visitor because Aaron couldn't be bothered to do his own washing up and left dirty plates in the kitchen. Chiji had just been released from prison for previous assaults on Amy and breaches of non-molestation order, but he broke into a house when she was out. The pair first met after Amy became homeless, aged 17, and he offered her protection. On his second night on the streets, he took Amy to his street camp, which he shared with some friends, and they stayed in a tent. She said, all I wanted was someone to protect me and take me under their wing. They became a couple, they raised enough money for a rent a flat, and it was shortly after they moved into the house that Aaron became abusive. This is in August 2017. On one occasion, he pinned Amy down in the street, for which she was in prison for 7 months. After his release, he moved back in and she fell pregnant, prompting her to end the relationship to keep their child safe. She added, I couldn't allow myself to be hurt and dominated by this man anymore, and I had a baby to protect. But the next 18 months were a nightmare. Everywhere I went to hide, he found me. He was jailed again for assaulting Amy, during which time she fell pregnant with a second child after a fling with a friend. Father of a second baby was too frightened of Chiji to stick around and he disappeared. After the most recent release, Chiji broke his restraining order again and broke into Amy's house, stealing blankets and a duvet to sleep in the attic. Eventually, when Amy saw him, she screamed for him to get out and he told her as he left that he hoped she would lose that dirty baby. Anyway, he's been jailed on November 18th for 15 months. His restraining order has been extended until 2024. Amy said he'll only serve 4 months, but this time they're keeping better tabs on him. At the moment I feel safe because he's locked up, but I don't want anyone else to feel the fear I live with. I want to tell other women out there that there is help if you look for it. I want other women to know that they are worthy of love and support, and I'm learning it for myself now that I want to raise my 2 boys and always respect and treat women with kindness. So, yeah, I mean, it does sound far-fetched, doesn't it? How could you not know? But she spotted him, and again, it just sounds like this whole cycle of abuse, and he's coming out of prison, and it's probably the same old story, I'll never do it again, and this kind of thing. Anyway, hopefully this time, that's it now. But I mean, how scary would that be? I mean, it doesn't say how old their first child is now. I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be, it's still going to be very young. But had the child been a little bit older, and they wake up and, again, it's like a plot from a horror film. Mummy, I can hear something moving about in the loft, and she's like trying to reassure the child. Now it's it's just noises, it's pipes and that. But no, there's a guy in your loft. So yeah, it's horrible. The bigger issue, obviously, is that the abuse she suffered at this guy's hands, and now hopefully that will stop. And surely there's got to be some sort of review done as to why this guy was allowed to keep coming back into her life after being arrested for what he'd inflicted upon her. Now, the fact that after the first incident she fell pregnant, so there was a reconciliation there. But then after that, if she's had to move 10 plus times and he keeps following her, if she's reporting these, he's here again, he will not leave him alone. And she must have done, because obviously it says there's been restraining orders in place. There needs to be, because there is stories like this in the news where its attention isn't paid early enough, and it results in people being very seriously injured and hospitalised and even killed because these people who kept finding it and they've come back, they've broken restraining orders, and a beating's gone to a point where you can't take it back. So yeah, hopefully now this will be dealt with, and Amy and her boys can move on, have a good life, and he will and get some help in prison to try and break this cycle of abuse. So, a bit of a heavy story. Let's move on to some light fare. So story number 3 today. So story number 3 comes to us from Mental Floss by MSN News. So this is Lilo, the world's first airport therapy pig. So yeah, a lot of people get anxious when they fly. So we have a solution now. So there's a new reason to go to the airport early. You might run into a therapy pig who's making your trip a little easier. So this is from Reuters. Lilo, the Juliana pig, is a member of San Francisco International Airport's Wagon Brigade, a therapy animal program designed to ease stress and anxiety in travelers. So aside from a snout and pot belly, Lulu can be recognised by a captain's hat and red hoof polish. She spends the day with guests who are happy to take a break from the pressures of travelling. She might comfort them by posing for a selfie, playing a song on her toy keyboard. Adorable. And offering them a head to pet. After bringing joy to people's day, Lulu goes home to a San Francisco apartment where she lives with her owner, Tatiana Danilova. In her free time, she goes on daily walks and snacks on organic vegetables. She even has her own Instagram account. I don't even have an Instagram account. Airports around the world are starting to embrace the benefits of therapy animals. For their customers, the Wag Brigade program at San Francisco includes a number of dogs, and earlier this year, the Aberdeen Airport in Scotland debuted its own canine crew of dogs trained to make travellers feel safe and happy. Therapy miniature horses have been used at an airport in Kentucky. But according to San Francisco Airport, Lilo is the world's first airport therapy pig. So, yeah, it's nice. It's brilliant. So the caveat for me is as long as these animals are well cared for and their needs are taken into account as much as the passengers they're there to kind of help. Perfect. And it sounds like this animal's got a wonderful life. Tatiana, it sounds like, takes good care of her. Regular walks and good organic food. But, you know, a lot of people get very anxious when they travel. People get very, very nervous. So the fact that this animal is kind of, number one, it's people have an affinity with animals. You know, sort of using animals to relieve stress has long been utilised, not just in people's domestic homes. You have a cat, you come home, have a stressful day, stroke your cat, pet your dog, that kind of thing. But in care homes for the elderly, and that just this nice bit of contact, this warmth with an animal. So not only have you got that, but you've got the distraction of playing with these things to kind of maybe take your mind off your imminent flight. And if it's going to help, you know, relax people, excuse me, perfect, why not? Lovely story. Okay. Next one's kind of heavy, but there's a few specific things I wanted to highlight in it. So, yeah, sorry about this, but you know, I've got some thoughts on it. So, story number 4, Sky News. This is the ongoing trial of the Grace Millane case. Naive and trusting, Grace gave a list of festivities to a man on BDSM dating site called Hears. So, the defense team for the gentleman accused of their murder, is I think it's now concluded its case, but they are really pushing the angle that this was accidental, that he never intended to kill her. It was a sex game gone wrong, essentially. So part of their defence is that saying that she has always kind of been into this thing, and here's their evidence for it. So British backpacker Grace Millane gave a list of her sex messages to a man she met on a BDSM dating website. Her murder trial is hurled. Months before she was killed during a Tinder date, a university graduate from Essex spelled out exactly what she wanted to learn, including bondage, electrical nerve stimulation, and breathe play using a gas mask. The man gave a statement to New Zealand police, which are read to the jury at Auckland High Court after they told he refused to cooperate with defence lawyers. Refused to cooperate, I don't know, maybe he just didn't want to appear, because there is obviously a stigma about this kind of these kind of pursuits in the bedroom sort of thing. So maybe just saying he, you know, I don't know the specific details, but saying he was uncooperative, maybe it's just like, I'll give you a statement, but I don't want, you know, my face out there. So he described Miss Millane, 21, as naive and trusting after she contacted him via the Whippler site for BDSM enthusiasts in the summer of 2018, just before she left Britain on a worldwide adventure. She told him her interest began with a past boyfriend, but she said she's still quite naive and usually used her full name on another messaging app they'd used. So normally you'll use an alias, I guess. The man whose identity is protected told police, Grace told me she was interested in everything to do with BDSM, and her main area of interest was restraint. In Grace's Whippler profile, she outlined her sub-kink interests as giving full control, sounds, accessories, restraints, control, and massages. I can't remember discussing any specific BDSM interests with Grace in detail, but I think she was into daddy dom. Daddy domination? I don't know. I think Grace was an explorative stage and quite up to suggestions. She seemed quite keen to know what things were and what sort of things I owned pertaining to BDSM. They had planned to meet for a drink, but she changed her mind. The court had already heard from Miss Mullane's former partner, who said they had established practice of choking using safe words and tapping out, which meant it never put her in danger. So yeah, this is all from the defence saying, you know what, this was what the accused did. You know, they're pushing the sex game on wrong angle. A 27-year-old man is on trial accused of Miss Mullane's murder on the 1st of December last year, the night before her 22nd birthday, after a night of heavy drinking which ended in his hotel room. The man, whose identity is also protected, denies murder, claiming Miss Mullane died accidentally after asking him to apply pressure to her neck. In a police interview, however, he said he was unaware she had died until I found her on the floor the next morning. He admits disposing of her body in a suitcase he buried in the woods. The defence has closed its case, with the defendant choosing not to give evidence. Prosecution and defence will give closing speeches on Thursday before the judge sums up on Friday. Okay, so my thoughts on this. There's going to be people going, well, you know, we should know who this guy is. No, it's absolutely right. They protect his identity at this point. You know, you find out if he's guilty, you'll find out who he is. But at this point, you know, these kind of things can ruin lives if indeed he is innocent. So the fact that they're withholding his name, I think, is right. My thoughts on this is, and why I don't believe his defence whatsoever, and it all comes down to a specific point for me, is that he didn't realise she was dead until the next day. They've then, I mean, the prosecution have argued countless times, you know, people in shock do not do calculated actions like going out and buying a suitcase and shovel and cleaning products and all this kind of thing. And he was saying he's scared, it was an accident, this kind of thing. This is where his defence falls apart, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm only reading what you guys are reading, so there may be knowledge in there which I've not been privy to, but just that simple statement, he didn't realise she was dead till the next day. Here's the thing. What he's saying is, essentially, they finished what they were doing, so I'm guessing the sex act came to an end, as sex acts do, at which point he immediately rolled over and fell asleep like that. That has never, ever happened to me or anybody I know. There is always that post-sex come down, there's conversation, there's how was it for you, there's cuddles, there is, if somebody had died in that moment, you would know, you would not fall asleep thinking that person is fine. And then wake up and go, oh my God, I just don't buy it for a second. And again, there may be facts I'm not privy to, but for me, I don't buy that for a second, that he did not know in that moment that she was dead. You know, if he'd said, you know, I thought she'd passed out or something, again, you wouldn't just say, well, you know, I've choked, because it was part of the actual night they shared that he choked her out. He's admitted that, and we now know that she was willing for those things, even encourage those things. But if you thought for a second, any reasonable human being, that if you'd gone too far, if she'd passed out, you wouldn't just go to sleep. And the fact is going, no, I didn't realise she was dead. How could you not? You've just made love to somebody, and there's no dialogue, there's no, you know, just that kind of, like I say, that post-sex come down where you have conversation and you cuddle in, and you know, from a practical standpoint, you know, you get cleaned up and all that kind of stuff. You know, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So again, I'm not a judge, I'm not in that courtroom. I have my thoughts. Those were them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out, but I don't see how that defence can't be picked apart, because it just seems ludicrous to me. Anyway, let's finish off with some lighter fare. So, in the Metro today, Metro you can always rely on. So someone keeps leaving cash bundles around £2,000 around this village. So yeah, could there be a good Samaritan who keeps leaving thousands of pounds in the streets of County Durham? So police and villagers are confused about why the cash, almost always £2,000 in £20 notes, have appeared 12 times over the last 5 years. 4 bundles have been left just this year alone, with the latest being found on Monday morning. They are always left in plain sight, although in different locations throughout the village. Detectives have tried to figure out why they keep appearing and have even carried out fingerprint checks, but so far they have no idea. They said, could it be someone very rich but also forgetful, or is it intentional? Is it intentional? Police praised on his residents of Blackall Colliery for handing in the money. They got to keep it in the end anyway, as cash is held for 2 weeks and given the owner a chance to come forward, and if they don't, it goes back to the finder. Detective Constable John Forster of Peterlee CID said the team had interviewed numerous people and organisations in the village, as well as carrying out checks on local bank and post office accounts that even tested for fingerprints, but the circumstances surrounding the bundles of money remain a mystery. He said these bundles are always left in plain sight, such as pavements, and discovered by random members of the public who have handed them in. This could be the work of a good Samaritan, but we'd like to thank the residents who have shown incredible community spirit by handing in the money. Circumstances remain a mystery, so we'd welcome any information that you would help us get to the bottom of these random incidents. Commenting on the police Facebook post, one user said, "You don't see this every day, a good deal, fine £2,000, hand it in if nobody claims it and finder gets it. It's an act of kindness, it's a lovely Christmas present for a person seeking forgiveness." For the person finding it. John Price speculated perhaps someone who's done a bad thing to the people of Blackall Colliery in the past, many years ago, and now seeking forgiveness. Okay, dark, but okay. But Gary Story said, "What a nice thing to do, would love to help people and see their reaction, especially if they were struggling to make ends meet. Well done to that kind soul. If you have any information, contact Durham Constabulary." So yeah, what a lovely thing to do. I don't buy that it's somebody forgetful. I think this is intentional. I'd like to think it was just a positive act and not somebody trying to atone for some horrible sins. So it says 12 of these things have been found. There could be so many more that people just haven't handed in or reported for fear that they'd lose it. So there could have been dozens of these things over the year, but obviously there's 12 so far. If you're the person doing this, it's a lovely, lovely gesture. Maybe put some sort of note in the thing. You know, if they put like a little card in, so you have to put so there's no handwriting analysis. Just saying, you know, finders keepers, enjoy. A gift from, you know, from me to you, something. But yeah, these bags are just being left with money, and you know, that sounds like the owner's clearly not coming back for it. So they want it to be out there, and they're leaving it in public places. So what a lovely gesture. Again, just before Christmas. It's been like this has been happening for a while, but now that we're getting close to that time of year and money's tight and people want to, you know, spend a little bit more and treat their loved ones and people around them. So yeah, it's a nice story to end on. Anyway, so that's it from me, guys. Links to all the stories I've discussed can be found in the description below. Feel free to go and check them out. Let me know what you think about this video, and tell me, would you keep that cash? If you found a bundle of cash in the street, would you hand it in, or would you keep it and spend it? Let me know. I would probably keep it. Just me. If it was a wallet, hand it in, because then you can identify the person. But if it's just money, loose money, or is there an amount? If it's like, if I find a tenner, I keep that. If I find 20, I keep that. If I find 1,000, that gets handed in. So let me know where that line is for you. Answers in the comments, please, along with any thoughts you'd like to share. These are mine. They're not necessarily important. They're not necessarily right or wrong. They're just what was on my mind. So until next time, bye for now.